Harley Reid and Cody Walker, they look good in yellow and black, right? Well, let's provide a small update as to why there's still a small chance both of those things could happen. Now, we did speak about this on the Monday night show with Grok on as well, because he had some inside word on a little bit of this too. So I thought it'd be worth doing its own video one so people don't have to go sifting through the live weekly to find it, because it's pretty good and important news. And I know people are always hanging out for Harley Reid, and probably to a lesser extent, but it should be equally as important, Cody Walker updates. So firstly, in regards to Harley Reid, now, prior to even me speaking to Grok on this, I was actually approached by someone else who had some information in regards to, who's got a connection with the football world in a lot of different areas. They gave me a bit of background about information that had been received in the past to kind of verify that the mail that they receive from different people is pretty solid. And I don't really have any reason to doubt it. So this person had mentioned that in the Harley Reid race, that it is allegedly down to the final three clubs. Now, he didn't mention the clubs, but Grok did. But what this person also said was that it seems more than likely that Harley Reid is trying to exit this year, which I think plays into our favour substantially, which will make sense in a second when I get to that part. Then fast forward to Monday night, talking to Grok about it on the live show, because I know that he has his finger on the pulse with the Harley Reid stuff as well. And he also has heard that it's down to three clubs. And he mentioned the clubs were Richmond, Essendon, and Geelong. Now, the way it sort of then clicked in my mind was, well, if Harley Reid was to stay this year or next year and go the following year, I would then assume that Geelong was in the box seat to get him, because they would eventually have the draft capital, and that seemed to be the best way for him to get to Geelong. If he's wanting to leave at the end of this year, I think that puts it down like right up the alley of Richmond and Essendon. So if we make the assumption that he wants to go this year, potentially we're in a 50-50 race. I know a lot of people asked about what happened to Hawthorn. I don't know. I didn't ask. Grok just mentioned the three teams. He might know what's happened in the Hawthorn space. So we'll maybe ask him the next time he's on. But let's sort of talk through how it could work and how it might look for us and what maybe we can offer that Essendon can't offer. So I guess both teams have probably got the draft capital because of the various picks that both clubs hold. Richmond's, if you're a West Coast supporter, Richmond's picks are most definitely a lot more attractive than Essendon's. Not by a lot, but enough to be like, well, no, if we get a choice, that's where you're going, because we can get some better return on our investment through Richmond Football Club. So that's one big tick. Essendon are no doubt throwing a shitload of cash at him, which most clubs would have tried to have done for sure. We've also got a bucket load of cash. We've got to pay someone. We've freed up the Dusty money. We've freed up Rewalt, Cochin, all over the last few years. Obviously, Baker, Rioli, Bolton. So all of that kind of rolled into one. We are not short of cash. There's obviously a bit of a limit on what you're prepared to do as well. So I do understand and accept that. I mean, I don't think I'd be too keen on doing like a St Kilda to De Koning type deal. But to get quality, you've got to pay, like we know with the players that we lost last year. And the reverse is no different. So I don't want to talk about this and try and shortchange West Coast by any stretch, or Harley Reid for that matter. But there's also an element of when you're trying to bring players across to your club, you often have to pay overs, but maybe you can get them to buy into what you're doing to not take too high on the overs. So you can obviously try and keep the other players around them that you've probably mentioned as part of the group they're going to go through their footy career playing with. So I think the appeal, I think he's obviously got a pre-existing relationship with Nate Caddy, I think it is, at Essendon. So that definitely plays for something. He's obviously got a pre-existing relationship of sorts with Sam Lawler, as we saw before the game we had against West Coast. And, you know, I know that Liam Baker and Jack Graham left Richmond to come to us, but maybe they had some glowing endorsements to say about Richmond Football Club with the culture and all the people behind the scenes as well. In terms of what we can offer, I know we've spoken about it before, but West Coast are clearly going to ask for 2 first-round picks from this year. Possibly, they might even ask for 3, not necessarily from this year, but 3 in total. I truthfully don't think that anyone's going to part way with 3 first-round picks. I could be shocked. Maybe they will. But if we look at the picks that we've got in our possession at the moment, we've currently got picks 2 and 3. We've got our own, obviously, and North Melbourne's first-round pick as well. And it's probably not going to get too much different to that. So it'll be about the mark come season's end. look, I'm still not, I'm so torn. Like, I don't know if that's too much to give up versus what a young kid could be in the draft. Then you get someone like Cal Toomey come out in recent times sort of talking about how compromised and how much weaker this year's draft is compared to 2024's, which we obviously seemingly shot the lights out at, which is good news for us. And then when you hear things like that, it does then make you wonder, well, do we just bite the bullet and do it? Because you got to remember as well, next year in 2026, we're also going to be getting Tanner Armstrong probably as part of our NGA, who's looking like a top 15 prospect. You got Jack Lees, who's going to be a father-son next year. But obviously got Louis Callaway this year as a father-son. And Cody Walker, which I'll get to later, isn't done and dusted as a Blue just yet. So we'll come back to that one after. But yeah, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm maybe comfortable with giving up our 2 first-round picks for Harley Reid. My ideal scenario would be to give up 1 from this year, 1 from next year. I don't know where the West Coast will go for that, but that's where I would try and land it. And I think the club would push for that as well initially. But maybe they would buckle to pressure and do the 2 from this year. So firstly, what does everyone think on that? Would you be happy to give up 2 from this year? I just think, like, I know Harley's had maybe a bit of up and down in his year so far, but when you see him on the MCG against us, you just can't help but think he's going to be a big-time MCG type player. I know that sounds a little bit corny and cliche, but he just has that, dare I say, aura about him. And him and Lawler in the midfield, along with, Smiley rolling through there, Houghton rolling through there, McAuliffe, dare I say Sonzi, if we can get that right. But you know what I mean. With those guys rolling through there alongside him, it's a pretty impressive prospect. Now, Harley Reid doesn't exactly fix our outside pace issue, so that's still something we have to work on. But he does have explosiveness from the contest. So while it's not pure outside speed, it's speed away from stoppage, which I think when you've got the ball is still going to be equally as important, but we still need to fix that other part of the game. So yeah, the Harley Reid one, the final piece of the puzzle is convincing him to pick Richmond as a club of choice, which I know we've spoken about before, which is seemingly maybe the more difficult part of the puzzle. But when you sort of talk about list profiles, like he's got all these young guys that come through with Sam Lawler, Trainer, Smiley, all those kind of fellas, still got Loston around, he's got Tom Lynch. So to go back to Grock's side of things when he was on the Monday night show, he had mentioned that from the sources that he had, that a little bit of why Harley Reid was seemingly a bit disgruntled at West Coast was to do with a bit of the lack of protection he's getting on game day. Like, no one's really going in the fly the flag for him. He's getting scruffed and tagged and whatnot, and it's just kind of being let happen. And I think from what Grock mentioned, part of our pitch was all about, we've got these enforcers, we've got people like Nank and Lynch, even like Jonty Fall and Lawler. They're not afraid to get stuck in. They'll look after you. They've got your back. Mansell, players like that. So I think the pitch is more about our list and where it's going to go rather than where it is right now. And don't discount the way that we're staying in games. We're not rolling over. We're being pretty competitive. That takes the edge off where we are ladder position-wise as well, and makes it a somewhat palatable prospect. If we were getting done by 80, 90 points each week, you'd probably put a line through it straight away. But the fact that people can, and I'm talking about from the outside looking in, people can see that we're going in the right direction, we're developing something pretty good, that it can be a bit more enticing. And look, on one hand, you could definitely argue he'd be going from one basket case to another, if you want to put it that way. But I think we're probably definitely showing some more positive steps forward than a lot of other clubs in our ladder position area. So wouldn't fully discount it. And Essendon, I mean, I don't think they're much better off than us, to be honest, as we saw on the weekend. They only just were able to get a hold of us in the last quarter, and we were missing some pretty pivotal players. So I wouldn't say that they're streets ahead either. I can definitely understand the logic behind him wanting to go to a Hawthorn, a Geelong, whatever it might be. The other part for the Geelong factor is, in new light of all this stuff coming out about the third-party payments, that could put a line through some of this as well, potentially. Like, I don't know what they were planning on doing, but this is going to put a big microscope on any transaction they make going forward, and who knows what that means in regards to this deal. But there you go. So like I said, no one's saying this is done and dusted to Richmond, so please don't misconstrue it. All we're saying is we are red hot and up to our eyeballs in this race, and it's just a few things have to fall into place, but at least we know we're having a crack, and it's just more about what will it cost, is it worth it? So I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that one. Secondary to all of this, Cody Walker is a name that you might have heard of before. I did post a video about him maybe about 5-6 months ago now. So he is a 2026 NGA prospect for Richmond. He's also a father-son prospect for Carlton as the son of Andrew Walker. Now, Cody is shooting the lights out, I think is the best way to put it at coach level, and looking like look, I think you could almost say a number 1 or number 2 pick. I would definitely say top 5, but potentially a number 1 or number 2 player. So one of his games a week or so ago, he had 31 disposals, 10 marks, 8 tackles, and 3 goals, which is just absurd. He is playing extraordinarily good football. And I guess for a long time, a lot of the thought around this has been that he's been just fully locked and loaded to Carlton because, well, his dad played there. And look, I'm not saying that he's going to pick Richmond. What I am saying is it's not over until it's over. And from what I understand, the club don't think it's over. From what people outside of the club hear as well, they don't think it's over. Grok's heard it's not over. So it's one of those where there's smoke, there's fire. And the reason why it might not be over is despite the father-son link, we have wrapped our arms around Cody Walker. We've really embraced him. I think a big selling point for us is our culture. I think if we're being fair and reasonable, there's been a couple of question marks on Carlton's culture in recent times with some players on leave. Voss is a little bit unstable. There's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors. And their form line as well. I mean, if we look at it realistically, they're going to start losing players before they gain players, and their drop-off might actually coincide with when Tassie come in, so they're going to actually struggle to rebuild and to get back up and running, whereas we've already done that work, and now it's just getting the games into the players and continuing to build as we go. So, in theory, our list position could be better placed than what Carlton's could be in the next few years, depending on how a few things play out. So that would be another selling tool I would put towards Cody Walker as well. And as much as his dad played for the Blues, and I'm sure he's obviously very proud and loves that, at some point in time, there also needs to be a conversation around, well, what's best for Cody in his football? Is it best for him to be at Carlton in maybe a little bit worse environment with a team that's going to be possibly declining when we're on the up, or is it going to be better for him to go to a club that's already done the regen, the rebuild, got all these quality young players in, and he can rise up with them and create something special? So it's maybe not as clear-cut as what some people think. And again, he may very well pick Carlton at the end of the day because the ties are very strong there, and that's completely understandable. But I do love and respect the fact that we haven't shut the door on him. We've embraced him. We're trying to make something work. We're working really, really diligently and really hard on trying to get him across because he's a super talented player. And I wouldn't expect anything less from our development and coaching team than to try and make something happen rather than just pack it in because he's a father-son option. So there you go. There's a mini update on Harley Reid and Cody Walker, both exceptionally talented footballers, and it would be unbelievable to see them in the yellow and black, albeit a lot of things have to happen to make that work. But it's good to be in the mix, and it's good to have some live chances and good to have some things to talk about because we're in the game to try and build a quality side to get back into finals, and those two players would be fitting pieces of that jigsaw puzzle. There's no doubt about it. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Would you be happy to try and get Harley Reid in for those 2 picks? Do you have any thoughts on Cody Walker? I encourage you to go watch some highlights of him. He's an absolute gun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Look, they both may not happen, but at least we can sit here comfortably knowing we've had a crack and we're doing our best to try and get this team moving again.